Alright, this might not look like it, but this is the wide body wing for the wagon. Um, I'm a little impressed just because I started printing this like 2 or 3 days ago. I ended up buying 2 more bamboo P1Ss that I was just going to dedicate to the wide body. Unfortunately, the wing is the only one that I've refined enough to actually print and be done with. Hopefully, anyways, I guess we'll find out. But I did buy more of the Ender 5 Maxes from Creality, but unfortunately they're just too unreliable to try to print. I could have done this in 3 pieces instead of 12. But I think this is going to turn out pretty decent because it's going to get, covered in fiberglass or carbon and resin. I haven't gotten that far yet, but what I'm going to do now is try to get these glued together, and this material is different than what I normally work with. I normally print everything in ASA, which is basically the same as ABS, and I could just spray some acetone on the joints, hold it together, and eventually it would fuse and have a chemical bond. These are PETG. It's just a little bit cheaper, and the more colorful ones here are a high flow PETG. It just means it prints faster. It's also really cheap to just buy a 10-pack and you get one of every color, so that's why it's kind of a rainbow effect here, and the printers behind the camera they each got different color on them. But my only concern with using the high flow PETG is that I think there's still a lot of PLA in the PETG, and I'm not quite sure yet, but hopefully with having the resin and fiberglass it won't really matter. But that means I gotta use a different glue, so I gotta go back to, I used to only print PETG, but I got some JB Weld plastic bonder. That should work pretty well, and I think what I'm gonna do is glue it up in sections. So I'm gonna glue like these 2 pieces together on this end, and then move to this one, and so on and so forth. Why does this one not actually look like it fits together properly? Oh, I see. Interesting. So maybe I'll go this way, actually. I don't know. I probably don't have enough clamps to do this all at one time, so I was going to try to just do like one little joint at a time. But that's what I'm going to do now. So let's see how it goes. Maybe I can actually use the welding table and those clamps to help. That would be kind of nice, because then I can just scrape off whatever glue is left over afterwards. I like to use these, like, this is a lid for a plastic Tupperware, or glass Tupperware container from IKEA, but you can see, like, epoxy just, like, peels right off, so pro tip, do that. Just makes cleanup a lot easier. PETG doesn't like to stick to some super glues, and I don't have any CA-based super glue, I don't think, which I think is what you need to be able to do that. Well, that's pretty hard in there. Come on. Oh, I heard it crack. This container of JB Weld is pretty old. I have some other unopened ones, but, trying to be semi-frugal. And this stuff, I think, cures, or, like, sets up in, like, 5 minutes, so that should work fairly well. Now I do think it makes more sense to go on the side, because then there's more sitting down area, and then this one can just sit directly on top. Maybe. Yeah, this is going to be a fun experiment. I might have to... Yeah, we'll see. Alright, mix up some JB Weld. I'm disappointed. I used to have a bunch of the, like, generic mixing nozzles that go in the end of the 2-part epoxy tube. You waste a lot of resin that way, but it is way more convenient. If I was doing like all of these, I could just use one tube and do it all at the same time. And I'm going to try not to use a ton. I mean, the PET... The other problem with the ASA prints that I was having, trying to do them really big, is these are big, thin parts that are really long, so they try to warp a lot, unfortunately, and PETG doesn't warp near as much. So... just way faster to print it that way. It's going to get covered anyway, so it shouldn't really matter, but we'll see. I like to give a little bit of a wiggle. Yeah, this is not going to stand up on its own. This one might get leaned up against. Oh, something just like that. How about that? Is that going to block you seeing everything else I'm doing? Yeah, probably. Too bad you ain't get paid for this. Alright, so there's that. This is generic 3D print spatula that comes with like every printer. Or used to, actually. I guess I don't do that anymore. Anyways, scrape off the excess, put it on another piece, call it a day. Yeah, that piece ain't gonna stand up for sure. Yeah, we'll see. There's a really cool feature I added in here. I don't know how well it'll work in practice. I didn't actually test to make sure it fits, but you can see there's a groove in the back of here. The whole back is going to be one solid LED third brake light, because the third brake light is currently in the wing on the wagon, and so I thought that would be really cool. We'll see if it actually is worth it or not, I don't know. But I gotta try to keep glue from squeezing into that, because I gotta pull the LED strip through it after this is all put together. And I don't think that's gonna be super fun to do. But I got like 20 feet of it for like 10 bucks, so you know. I only need like 4 feet. Oh, come on, man. Alright, sit here for just a second. Just chill, please, chill. My lord. I don't get paid enough for this. Chill.
Creepy boys.
Oh yeah, I can use the little third brake light groove to help align. That is convenient. The thing I want to try to make sure is aligned the most is that groove, because it's going to be really hard to body work it if I don't. And clearly I like to torture myself with work, but not that much. Yeah. Yeah, you guys are gonna have to watch me struggle here for a little bit. What I should do is just clamp this to this, and then put this on top. That right under my other part. Alright, I thought that was a stupid idea, but that's pretty mint, as long as I don't touch it again. Sweet. Maybe I'll do that for all of these, that's really easy. Also, I think I mixed up too much JB weld here. It sets up in like 5 minutes and I've barely used any of that. So the nice part is this JB weld sands really easily, so if there's too much, screw it. Do it that way. I'm doing this piece next. Yeah. Ooh, do it the right way. Yeah, and see, these ones warped a little bit. Which is pretty believable, because I tried to print them in bigger pieces. I was trying to make less work for myself, and don't think I achieved that goal, unfortunately. Does that look right? Oh, I'm an idiot. Oh, Lord. Yeah, just watch this. Oh, boy. Let me scrape this off. I had those sitting on the bench incorrectly. The glue is supposed to go on this face to glue these two pieces together. I was like, no wonder they don't line up right. This piece has some weird features in it too. It'll get some heat pressed inserts, threaded inserts, because I'm moving the rear view camera into the wing, because why not? currently it's like by the trunk latch, and I want to be able to see more. I don't know. Seems like a good idea. So I'm doing it. Oh, that's way better. Yeah. There we go. Okay, so make sure I get this one stood up in the correct direction. So this is the cable pass-through for that connector for the camera, and then it just gets, there's another piece I actually printed a while ago that holds the camera in. Again, definitely not a necessary thing to do, but it seems like a really easy way to show off, period, I guess. I was gonna say I like to show off 3D printing or like my design skills or something, but no, it's just showing off in general. Do cool stuff. In all honesty, I wanted to get one of the newer GM rear view mirrors that has the camera that it uses instead of actually, you know, using it like a mirror. Do both, I guess, but I thought the angle from up there would be better, and I have not picked up one of those mirrors yet because they're like way more expensive than last time I looked, and I need to get the car working. Currently I'm waiting on parts, so taking a detour to do this is fine, but okay, well that's all of them glued up halfway, I guess. Oh, I think there will be one more step of gluage. I'll do the ones that were up here, all those together, and then the ones that were back here all together, and then glue them all into one. Alright, these are glued together enough, I think. Sounds a little soft, but in general I think these are pretty good to go. It's only been like I spoke way too soon, but that is the one that had the glue that was pretty much already dry, so pretty low expectations over there for that one. Not quite sure how I want to go about gluing the rest of these sections together. Yeah, this one goes right here. So this one goes right here. That one that fell over goes over there. So maybe I will put this up here for a minute and do the fronts. Yeah. Now how am I going to hold these together? I don't know. So we'll do the same thing here. Yeah, we'll just do one and then I can come back and do the other one. Do the other side, I mean. I'll learn how to talk eventually. It's not like I'm on camera or anything. That is killing me. I let these dry overnight. They I glued the other ends on the same way, just kind of standing them up like this. But now I've got these two halves, and I gotta try to see if they line up at all. They're off by a little bit, and I didn't add any alignment features to like dowel them or key them together. I don't really like doing that when I'm gluing stuff like this, mostly because the prints tend to warp a little bit, and then the keyway makes it even harder. I think on this one it would have made it easier, but I actually had to break this one in half because they didn't stay lined up when they were curing and they kind of slipped. And when I went to break it in half, it actually broke not at the glue seam, but a little bit over, and it was really hard to glue back together, which is part of the reason I left it overnight. It seems like it's okay now, which is great, and that means that the glue clearly is sufficient. But I'm going to mix up some more JB Weld. I've got some longer clamps. I think I'm just going to try to glue kind of this surface here, and then I'll clamp the ends, and then I can come back and fill it in. I think that's just going to be the easiest way to keep it aligned. Time to pull some clamps off and glue the edges and then throw it on the wagon. Alright, I recognize the need for a wiper on the back of this wagon. I use it all the time on the Tahoe, which is roughly the same-ish shape, just taller. But it's fugly, so I'm gonna get rid of it. And shout out to Kill All Wipers guy, because I sent him some dimensions and some pictures, and he developed this, and I'm gonna give it a shot and see if this plug fits perfectly, as I hope it will. Can you tell I've taken it off before? And then there's a connector in here for the motor. Alright, there's the motor out. We don't need that anymore. And I don't think it'll look weird in there because the trim panel covers all of that. So, quick fitment check. Huh, my arms are not long enough. Where's the ball? Oh yeah, that's flush. That's nice. So the only crummy part is this glass does not open separate of this. So going back and forth is gonna kind of be a pain to make sure that it's in the right spot. But that looks pretty sick. I don't know if you can tell, but there's nothing here now. This is nice shiny black. It's flush, which is cool, very cool. And yeah, now I need to get some of the window sealant. Yeah, buddy, there you go. Wiper is deleted. That plug looks sick. Yeah, dude, rock on. Let's go. I quickly sanded the wing just to cut down all the super high spots. And now I'm gonna go back with some of this fiberglass infused Bondo that I've never used before and try to kind of, I don't know, kind of skim coat it. There's a little bit of a, like you can feel in between where all the parts join up. And I thought the fiberglass infused one would be stronger, which for plastic 3D printed stuff kind of seems like it would help. So I'm gonna give it a whirl. Do.
Oops. Scan product code for instructions. Why can't you just put them on the thing? What the... Are they on this thing? Dumb. Stupid. I mean, kind of not. It's like less printing and stuff, but... For a 3-inch diameter puddle of filler, squeeze out a 3-inch long strip of hardener. This is the maximum recommended amount at any given time for optimal application. Working time 3 to 4 minutes. Okay. I'm gonna try to be smart about this. Alright, so 3 inches is a little bit smaller than this. And 3 inches is that. Now hopefully that helps me not mess up and use the wrong ratio. The nice part is I'm not gonna sand this tonight because it's night and I don't want to. I'll do it tomorrow. So if it takes a little bit longer to cure, that's fine. Shop full of tools and I can't find a flathead screwdriver. Okie dokie. Dude, right on the money time-wise, so that's cool. And I scraped all this junk off for the most part, so this is semi-reusable. Cool, so tomorrow morning, what a great way to start the day. Tomorrow morning I'll come out here and sand some Bondo. All right, I got this completely glassed over after I did that little sample spot. It didn't come off, so I did the whole thing. And I did the bottom too. And so now what I'm gonna do is go back and just use standard glazing putty and fill in all the tiny stuff, and it's way easier to sand than this stuff. This stuff was pretty difficult. This is all done with like 50 grit on the palm sander. And now I'm gonna use the glazing putty and yeah, build it back up, sand it back down, and then probably do one final set of that, and then I'll probably switch to filler, primer, and paint. At least that's the plan. What is this guy? I sanded down the last coat of Bondo, and then there's like a tiny bit left in the jar. So I just threw the hardener in there, and then I filled the can like halfway with acetone, so that way I could brush it on. Just like a nice easy way to get a thin coat. And now I'm gonna sand this by hand with some 220 grit, and that should hopefully be most of the end of it. I got a small crack over here. This piece wasn't super happy when I glued it anyway. And it's been sitting out in the sun, so it kind of tracks. But everything else looks okay. I got to fill in a small gap with some glue here and here, just from again where I glued it and it didn't get in there. But I'm gonna go ahead and get it sanded, and then hopefully get ready for paint-ish soon. Bondo acetone trick. Now that I've done the filler primer and it's way more obvious where I have issues that I need to fix and fill. Again, this is really just to thin it out and make it easy to brush on, it also makes it a lot thinner. I'm just gonna squirt a bunch of this into this jar. Cup, I should say. And we'll start with that and see how long that lasts. And then grab some acetone. And the nice part about the spot putty is that you don't need any hardener. It's kind of the whole point. So it's just easier to mix than that other stuff, that other glazing putty I used the other day. How I do it, I'm gonna give it like 10 or 15 minutes and I'm gonna come and sand it.